I've got 12 o'clock on my phone. Who's on the call?
I'm here.
Yeah, if you want a quick tally, President Wallander, Vice President Sheehan, and Director Smoots and Butner are on the call, along with Margot.
Very good. So we have a quorum?
Yep.
Okay, the special meeting for the Blue Mountain Translator District, January 27th, 2021, to conduct a work session shall come to order. Call the roll, please.
President Wallander.
Here.
Vice President Sheehan. He's there, he's just muted. Tanner, can you hear us?
Check.
Awesome. All right, Director Butner.
Here.
And Director Smoots.
Here.
That's a quorum. All right.
We've assembled today to hold a work session, the meaning of which is to have discussion and to receive briefings from staff and others that work for the district. No official action will be taken today, and as customary, old business should be discussed first for the work session.
All right, we just want to make sure we go over conflicts of interest.
Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none. Safety. Executive Director McHaddad, are you being safe?
Yes, let's.
Good, because safety never takes a vacation. So I noticed on the goal session agenda, it's marked as saying that the suggested following the 11-12 meeting items, others were added to that in addition to, those are mostly old business items. Should we look at those first as a group?
It's just up to whoever wants to say something. Like it says on the document, the way it was ordered is that before the 112 board meeting, I made a list of things that were a good idea to discuss. During that meeting, somebody said some things. Then after that meeting, some people said the things. So it doesn't matter what order we talk about them now. That's just the timeline of when these suggestions were given to us.
Okay, so I'd like to talk about the old business first and go in chronological order if there aren't any objections to that. Okay, so I sent everyone an email individually and to Alex that talked about the old business items that I could remember to put together to formulate and send out to everybody. And there are a lot of other goal sessions on here that have been contributed from Sheehan and McHaddad. And I want to know how the directors want to approach this to address these bullet points. That's what I want to know, because we've only got an hour to talk about 2 pages worth of things that need to get done. So how should we approach this?
Seems like, Tim, this is Tanner. It seems like we can maybe start with, as you suggested, that's fine. We could start with your, the list that you sent, or, which I think those are included in the board packet as well. Actually, yeah. So, but it seems like some things, if we hit a bullet point at a time, yeah, you're right. We don't have a lot of time. If there's a high priority thing, maybe we should hit that first. But some things we might be able to kind of cross off in some way, or assign in some way, and then move pretty quickly to the next things. We're not going to make resolutions today, as I understand it, but make sure that we have a complete list to work from is kind of the way I understand this meeting to go.
That's the way I understand it should go too. So everybody kind of have that same vision of what we should do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on going over the old business. It's in the meeting minutes. It's been discussed. Some of it's been voted on and things of that nature. I think I sent 12 or 13 of the things that came to mind. There are two things that I want to address. The responsibility as being a director for the board of, as being a board of director for the translator district is to act in the best interest of the members in a general statement. And that includes addressing some of the shortcomings that we have in front of us. But the two that I want to highlight are the 7 internal controls that need to be addressed from the audit. And I think Margot should speak to that, as she's probably the best suited to suggest ideas or assign a task to someone to correct those internal controls. Directors, what do you say?
Yeah, I agree. That's a high importance, Tim. It might be maybe a way to be able to go through this is if we just asked, I think, Margot to review those and then present at the next meeting a recommendation for how we handle those between Margot and Alex between now and what is it, February 9th or something, whenever our next meeting is. Make sure that that's assigned to be done with kind of a deadline. I think seems like would be the best way to handle that, because we probably can't discuss them all right now anyway. I don't think. I agree with you that that's a highly important thing, and maybe just that assigning and then hearing what are the right policy changes would be the best way to go about it.
So does everybody have a copy of the goal session bullet points that they can reference? Because I think the best thing to do is just everybody needs to speak up at who wants to work on what part of this goal session to be able to have something tangible to take back to a board meeting and present in a fashion at that time. So should we just assign people to tasks, or what should we do?
I have a comment. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On part for the audit, part of that are items that Alex and I can work on together, but there's certain parts of that like the debit card policy and everything like that, it's really not a great internal control to have the person using the debit card help write the policy on that. I would not recommend that at all. I'm not saying Alex would do anything wrong. I'm just saying to cover him, he should not be helping to write that policy.
That's
I agree.
Yeah, that's great. That's helpful. So on stuff like that, could you, using that as an example, and maybe others, could you gather maybe a couple examples of other companies or other organizations, their debit card, and bring those to the board with your recommendation, and then the board can, one of us can help write that, or the board as a whole can adopt a specific policy that, you're right, sort of protects Alex from that. But that's a great example of something to just bring back to the board.
Yes, I can do that. But items that were not put on the list that have been sitting there since August and November has been the direct deposit of payrolls. We addressed that issue back in August. I gave a spreadsheet of how we could make that work if it was wanting to be implemented, because it was brought up, and then it just kind of fell off the agenda, and also the sick leave back in November. So we need to kind of get those on the old business list.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds good.
Direct deposit. Okay.
Okay.
What's that?
I was just writing down the notes here for me for direct deposit on the next meeting and sick leave and the debit card policy.
Okay,
There's two things there we need to address.
Scott,
next
in your,
meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Scott, I was going to ask in your business, do you have a debit card policy that we could use as an example in your line of work?
We don't. There are company cards issued to the manager of the store,
Okay.
and that's to be used for business purposes, whether it's supplies, taking customers out, stuff like that. There are rules and stuff for that. As far as a debit card, nobody has that. That's a big no-no in the company's eyes.
Okay. So it's in my experience in the past on the business side, it was usually a credit card.
Correct.
Is what I had for a number of years. And then there was policies around that. But so that seems like.
Debit cards across the board are usually not used on businesses just because they're harder to track. A credit card, you have that whole statement right there. You collect all the receipts to it. And anything that is used for a credit card or a debit card should always have the business purpose, where it was, who was involved in it on those receipts. That's standard operating procedures.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe Margot, in your notes, what we need to do is transition from a debit card to a credit card and figure out what the policy should look like for us, or at least examine what that looks like, and then we can decide then.
Okay, I can have that ready for the next board meeting.
okay, that sounds great. The other thing I'd like to talk about are the contracts. And I think all the directors should appreciate that everything was condensed and put into one table format.
Yes.
Did the directors have an opportunity to read through the contracts and evaluate them? Anyone?
To some degree.
Yeah, to some degree.
So
are we?
I have a.
This is.
Yeah.
This is Scott. So on these contracts, are we needing to determine if we need to go automatic renewal, or do we need to revisit these every year to negotiate?
Well, I don't know of a contract that doesn't have terms and conditions applied that has a quote unquote automatic renewal. That's a new thing to me. Am I behind the times? Is there something developed as of late where a contract is automatically renewed? Anyone?
I don't like that automatic renewal just because certain circumstances may change. Just like this COVID occurred last year that caused a lot of problems for us getting behind in our business. So I think it's the same thing on that. I think each time the contract comes up due, we need to review that at the time and see if we want to renew it or alter it.
I agree.
Okay, so Mike, go ahead.
I was just agreeing that I think the automatic renewal, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what that means as well, but it seems like, yeah, we should review that. If it's a 2-year, some of them I think are 2 years, some of them are however they work, then when that renewal time comes, we can reevaluate. The other thing I think that goes along with this, or was an item I added that I have been trying to figure out how to work on, and is some format, some self-correcting, non-arbitrary calculation or whatever for how we come up with what tenants pay. You know, when Alex went to talk to EO and I about adjusting rent for the next contract cycle, it was like I think we need some the reasons or the way in which we calculate those things. There is quite a bit of discrepancy between EO and I, Oregon Wireless, and Elkhorn Media Group, and so, you know, getting those things somewhat even in a non-arbitrary way would be a helpful part of this process as well, I think. So, well, I guess what I'm saying in terms of volunteering, I have been trying to work on some kind of a standard operating procedure for calculating the leases, and I'm open to input on on that for what the different factors in that equation are. But that might help as well.
Yeah, it's a hard one to place a value on that. Past conversations have been about the number of square feet of tower space that's required and the potential to limit tower space per user. That's a whole another meeting of itself. The way we came
Sure.
about that was in the past, we used some kind of a benchmark that one of the counties was paying for site lease at one of the sites in Baker, Union counties or something like that, and we just paralleled what they were charging. I think that might have been about the time the Mount Emily site went into operation, I think. But we used some reference to figure out a price point.
Yeah.
And how there's been such an imbalance, I don't know how that came about exactly. But as to the contracts, I started with the most important one, and that's the Mount Fanny site. That's the most important contract for the district because it's the hub of the network. Mm-hmm. And I'm concerned about that contract because I don't recall the board reviewing the Mount Fanny lease agreement that was included in the email. And the document is signed by the executive director. And that should concern everyone, including the executive director. Because the board is to negotiate and review contracts on behalf of the district. And this is a problem. So I encourage you directors to go and specifically look at that contract that was sent out and the signature line. And then tell me what you want to do about it.
Which contract are you referring to?
It's the Mount Fanny power line contract.
For?
It's in your email that you sent out.
We have 8 of those. So which one of the 8 are you referencing?
Contract number 1.
Okay,
Oh, so it's the BMTD contracts 1 email, and then there's a set of contracts in there.
Sent out on Friday, January 21st. That's right.
We have 8 power line contracts. Which of the 8 tenants are we talking about specifically?
The specific document. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't speak for you. I was just going to say, I think he's talking about our lease on Mount Fanny. So it would be in that email second from the bottom on that list. Am I correct, President Wallander?
Yes, it's the email. The subject line is BMTD contracts number 1.
You're still not providing any of the information necessary for me to respond.
The Mount Fanny lease.pdf.
Yes, we
It's
have
the second document from the bottom. It's
about a dozen
it's
of
a
those.
link. Say again?
We have about a dozen of those, right? There are several tenants on Mount Fanny.
I think he's talking about
It-
our own lease.
Our
That's correct.
the lease with the Forest Service.
That's
Go to the
impression I-
email Friday, January 22nd. In that email body, there are 6 PDF files that are links. The second from the bottom that Director Smoots indicated is the Mount Fanny lease.pdf.
That's our 20-year lease with the Forest Service.
For the Mount Fanny site. The termination date is 2037, according to the information in the body. And the thing that's concerning is on page 8 of the signature line. That the document is signed by the executive director February 18th of 2020. And that's
And
concerning.
shouldn't there be also a signature by the Forest Service supervisor on that?
To be a binding
There is.
contract, I believe that's correct.
And one thing I remember talking about the Forest Service was going up there to take a look at the site to determine if we could put a building on there. I didn't realize there was anything on a lease. I don't remember in any of those meetings last year talking about the lease.
Yeah, I think that
Am I
would have been
correct?
fall 2019 that we went over this, getting the contract renewed with the Forest Service.
So I tried to read through the meeting minutes to try and find something, and I don't remember reviewing this document at the board level, and don't know if it was sent past legal counsel because I can't find anything in the meeting minutes. But if it is what I think it is, that's a problem.
All right, I can go back and review that with the Forest Service.
No, it's not about going back and reviewing it. It's about the executive director signing a document that the board of directors is responsible to review and authorize and negotiate. And we didn't do that, to my knowledge. And that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's
And
why
to mine
we go back
either.
and review it.
No, I guess I'm not getting my point across. I don't understand how this came to be, under what authority, and how you were authorized to go and do that. Can you explain that?
I'd have to go back and review it.
Who's the other signature on there?
That would have been whoever at the Forest Service was.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It's supposed to be Tom Montoya, according to the document, but it's not signed or dated. So I think the directors have some reason to have an explanation given, and that needs to be forthcoming.
I agree.
All righty. Well, like I said, I will go back and review it.
The other site's the Mount Harris site, that lease with Hancock Forest Management. And the one at Beaver Mountain, I didn't get that far because I didn't have enough time, but the 3 transmission sites for the district are the most important thing, and we need to get those shored up and taken care of, along with an explanation. So let's move on to the next topic, I guess. What's next? Who wants to talk about something else next? Any of the directors have anything they want to say or discuss now?
I don't know if we can cover it. We won't be able to cover it in this meeting necessarily, but I want to keep on the list and keep in front of us maybe pretty soon. And this ties into a couple different places, a couple different bullet points on here, but review, revisit, keep in front of us the increasing need for a second employee. There's a lot's changed in the last just through COVID and a channel being our own channel on the air and all of the, you know, the different things with RFP and all that stuff that are connected together, that really, those two things, one, revisiting a need for a second employee. We had the time when Curtis was on, was I had the chance to visit with a couple of people in the community that he talked to during that time, and in getting some of the information out about the RFP and whatnot. Very well received. It seemed as if his working relationship with Alex was really good. So maybe there's an opportunity still available with Curtis potentially if we're looking at that. And then connected with that also is getting Alex as the executive director, but Alex specifically, not just the position, up to full time and appropriate compensation for that. The role is significantly larger than it was, I think, probably even a year ago, and the potential for growth is there tremendously. So, given our resources on hand, which is significant, I think we need to make some adjustments to get Alex specifically to a place where he's supported and equipped and paid to do the job we're asking him to do. And then that potential growth that's already been proven by the track record. That was in the scratch minutes document that shows some of the financials over the last few years. There's a tremendous amount of growth there, and a tremendous amount of resources on hand. So I think that would be a good thing that we need to hit.
Can I
So
address?
Vice President Sheehan, this is Tim Wallander.
Uh-huh.
The reason the district is in the position the district is in is because of the frugality of the board of directors being fiscally responsible with the resources and planning ahead for the 15 transmitters that need to be replaced on the 3 sites on top of the mountains.
Uh-huh.
In addition to that, it was a collective business strategy to do public outreach, direct mailings, all these things that are in the old minutes that can be revisited. It wasn't on the shoulders of just a single individual. It was a team effort. And that's the thing that needs to be recognized. I'd like you to explain to me and the other directors your reasoning behind the suggestion for increasing the hourly wage and the full-time going to benefits when we have all this old business that's still floating in the wind. And the only thing that I can see that's changed in the last year is the development of a local channel that we don't have data to see what the benefit, the cost, benefit, and reward are to the district. And as a director, the financial responsibility of the district falls at our feet. I await your response.
We have an executive director, a single employee, who's tasked with a lot, and he's paid part-time at a not an awesome wage. So yes, there's a large stack of old business that needs to be done, and much of that falls on Alex, who's paid part-time at a not great competitive wage. So my desire to see the executive director paid well is because he's proven himself and will continue to carry out what the district needs and the vision and mission of the district. He'll continue to carry that out. But I think we've got to recognize that things have changed and they will continue to change. And some of the old, like, you mentioned direct mailings and that sort of thing. Some of that's effective. I throw that stuff away. I don't look at it. And some people do, but I don't think that's a good use of resources. I think a better use of resources is developing a voice and a content for the district that's more direct and a lot more dynamic than a postcard or something. I don't read those things. That's junk mail. Personally.
So another thing that factors into that is that the cost of satellite competitive services, I'll just use that term, competitive services have gotten so far out of reach of the citizens of the counties that a lot of them have returned to the district because it's a very affordable, high quality service that's delivered to them. So regardless of whether you throw away the direct mailing or not, there are economic factors that have moved people back to the district. So let's discount the mailings, but there are other factors that have moved them back.
Sure. And that's what I think there's better ways to get the word out there than direct mailings, for instance. So, but that's going to require somebody to do that kind of thing. And that's, I think, what we have an employee, an executive director to do is, how do we get the word out? Can we create and develop our own, a little bit of our own content, a commercial that talks about what we do? When I first heard about the Blue Mountain Translator District, I had no idea what that even meant. And so there's a lot of people do, and you've been on the board forever. I get that, but there is a gap in how do we get the information out in a way that people are in the way that people consume information now. And some of that in creating content or creating a video or the website, the app, like all those kinds of things, those are increasing the workload for a person that's still only paid part-time and not paid all that competitive. You can go be a personal shopper at Walmart and make more money than Alex makes. And I think as a board of directors, as a district, as an organization, we should care more and take more pride in where we're going, that an executive director type role is still in development. I know that name change was relatively recent in the history of the district, but that's a good development, and there should be a career-like position there where somebody can make a decent living and provide the service and bring ideas and feel equipped and empowered and free to begin to act in the best interests of the district to bring about some of the things as times change. And we're not going to, I think we've got a little bit, it's not so much getting the cart before the horse as recognizing we've got $250,000 in the bank. And we need to have a big slush fund for the transmitters that need to be replaced. I get that. I'm not saying we go willy-nilly spending money, but at some point there's a leveraging of resources for, forward movement, for a future, for the way things are changing.
Well, Chavs does the mailing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Scott. So I'm not against going full time, but it's probably going to have to wait until we get a lot of this old business taken care of first, because it hasn't been taken care of for over a year from my research on a lot of these things. A lot of things are getting pushed off to the side.
Yeah. No, I understand there's some things that got pushed off to the side. Some of that was the right kind of...
That's part of the performance of an executive director, is to stay on track and to get this stuff done in an orderly fashion and not let it fall by the side. So far, I have not seen that in the past year. There was a lot of stuff that's fallen off to the side. That's what we need to correct in this meeting. Let's get this stuff corrected before we move on to something like that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Scott, but I would also remind you of what has happened in the last year, and shifting some of the focus because of a global pandemic that changed the way all of us work and do business and everything else is what is the kind of executive decisions that a director makes, is to refocus limited resources, because he is still paid part-time, you'll remember. So there's a limited amount
Yes.
of time and a limited amount of resources to be directed towards what seems most pertinent at the time. 1 year ago, a lot of how all of us do everything changed drastically. And some of those things had to be set aside from the simple fact that there's a limited amount of resources and a limited amount of time and a limited amount of authority or freedom. Like, we want to hold Alex responsible for a lot of things, but it doesn't seem like we do a great job of giving him the resources and the authority to get things done. So
Okay, so
there's a disconnect there a little bit.
So answer me this. So we've got this Chavez, what is it? Chavez,
Chav's Consulting in Baker City
Chav's
for the direct
Consulting.
handling of the service charge.
And then we've got Margot now as an accountant to help free up some of that time for Alex in this time frame.
Uh-huh.
So we supposedly have freed up some time with these services.
And we hired
Some
an
of his
assistant,
time.
I'll add to that.
And hiring an assistant through the summer to help with the mailings and all that.
Uh-huh.
So we've hired 2 firms to help out, take some of that load off of Alex.
Uh-huh.
And now you're wanting to increase him to full-time because he's still not getting it done? Still can't get it done? That's what you're telling me?
If I may, President Mullender,
Yes.
I think both you and Director Butner are kind of answering your own question. I have a limited amount of time to do everything. There ends up being a lot of old business to get to because I do not have enough time in the day at 30 hours a week to get everything done that I need to. Getting me to a full-time point would allow me to have additional time so there isn't all this backlog of old business all the time.
Okay, in my place of business, I get backlogged all the time, Alex. Full-time, or if I'm sick or on vacation, I still got to make it up. So I got to prioritize and stay on track. Same thing. Stay with the oldest business. Let's get that out of the way. Move on after it's done. You just got to keep at it.
So is there an accusation underlying accusation there?
No, there's no accusation. And I'm just bringing a point that everybody needs time. We don't have it. You just got to prioritize. So that's what we're doing with this goal session, is we need to work on the oldest business, get it worked out in the next meeting or two, keep going, do the next one, the next one. It's just the only way we're going to get it done.
I don't disagree with you at all, Scott. I think this is incredibly helpful to get things all into one place like this. This is great, and I agree. But it seems to me, as a organization, we have a ton of resources we have $250,000 on hand besides the Powerline Fund and the reserve fund. It seems to me there's a point at which we like, how long do we want to have the executive director position be a part-time, non-family wage peon kind of paid job, or do we have a bigger vision for what we want the district to be, and can we reverse engineer it? We have
So I'll refer.
we have resources.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We have resources, tremendous amount of resources on hand that have been steadily accumulating over the last few years for any number of reasons. Some of it is getting grants. Some of it is, the change in how the fees are levied, all that stuff. All that plays into it, and team effort, all whatever, that's fine. But the point is we have a lot of resources, and we're in all of what COVID did over the last year made things harder for everyone, but it's also changing a lot of how things are done and how business is done and how we all operate, including our subscribers and including I think our employees. So how we transition, viewing this as a transition point, as a point where we can strike and engineer and build out what we want the district to look like is this is an opportunity then. But I don't say that we ignore old business and let it all slide. I'm saying you're answering, just like Alex said, you're answering the question that I'm asking. We have a part-time, pretty poorly paid, low-paid employee that we heap things on and hold his feet to the fire, but we're still not culturally and in job description, in pay, we're still not doing a great job of actually equipping this person, this position to do all of those things.
I came from a job in Portland that had paid me a lot more money than I am, and I'm an assistant manager, taking on a lot more responsibilities for a lot less money.
Okay.
It's that's 20 years ago, 25 years ago. What I was making then is what I'm making now. I've got a lot more responsibilities compared to then. It's just a fact of life.
Okay, but my question is, if you have the ability to give someone else better than what you've got, wouldn't you want to do that? Like, because things have been kind of hard, you think it should be hard for Alex too? I'm missing the point, I guess.
Yeah, we ask corporate for that all the time. We ask to hire more people. They ignore us. We just go on, get it done, and go our way. If we don't like it, then we go elsewhere. But here's the thing. This needs to be budgeted. So this is for the next budget cycle that we should plan for this. Right now, we need to take care of the old business instead of worrying about the job at this time. It hasn't been done, is my point. We've let old business go a long time. We need to take care of that first. Then we'll present it to the review or to the budget committees to put a full-time position if we can get to it before then.
Okay. Vice President Sheehan?
Yeah.
So I understand your reasoning behind wanting to do what you want to do, but please go back and read the mission statement of the district. And at any given moment, maybe you're not aware of this, there are 15 transmitters that need to be replaced because they're at end of life. At least 2 years ago, they were at end of life. They're hanging on by a thread operating up there. And the mission statement defines what the board of directors is supposed to do. And I understand your position, but you said we hold his feet to the fire, and I take offense to that because I'm not seeing anybody else coming up with solutions how to fix all this old business that's not being addressed. And the problem with the contract that I brought up being signed by the executive director, I think there needs to be some kind of a discussion to explain your reasonings for the suggestion of going to full-time from strictly a financial perspective. Eliminate all the other financially. Speak to that.
Can I address something financially?
Yes, please.
When you think about the future for a budget for purposes, and I'm just saying this as a business owner myself, when I do my budget for the coming year and deciding on if I'm going to give my employees raises or benefits or whatever, you don't want to look at what your bank account, what your reserve is. You never do. You want to see what your general operating revenue is and live beyond those means. Do not use what you have in your bank account to budget for raises, because that's just a picture for failure.
Yep, I understand that.
We need to
Thank
address
you.
when we do the budget, how much money we have left over after the general operating for regular materials and services, personnel at its current level, how much money we have left over, and then decide how we want to divide that out, being whether it be for capital outlays for future or for current operating expenses would be the best way to address that.
Yep, I get that. That makes sense. So let me try to answer the questions that are being levied at me from a financial standpoint with an example. If I own a tractor and I need to pull a plow and the tractor isn't able to pull the plow, I don't just keep driving the tractor and expect it to pull the plow. You figure out a way to buy a bigger tractor. You put resources in. And what we have is Alex,
That's
limited. What we have is our executive director with a limited capacity right now at 30 hours a week. He's at 200 horsepower, and we're expecting him to put in 300 horsepower. And it just kind of doesn't work that way in the real world. Like that isn't how it works. We have things stacked up. I see that. Again, a lot changed over this last 12 months that was unaccounted
what changed?
for. All of the
What
COVID
changed?
stuff. All of the COVID stuff
No,
threw
no.
a lot of wrenches in a lot of works that would have taken away from certain things. So that changed a lot of how workflow happened and all of those things. So some of that is just the way this year went. I don't think anybody in anywhere would say that 12 months ago, they got everything done this last year that they really hoped, because man, things changed in 2020 of how the world operates and how we do business changed a lot. And you roll with it and you figure out how to go, and you come back to a session like this and look at where you need to pick up. And that's just what we're doing. But the point that I'm trying to get across is we still have a situation where we have a person in a position that's limited. He's limited by his number of hours and by his compensation. And in order to expect that increase, we have to put resources into it. So if that discussion needs to come around at the next budget cycle, then let's, obviously we can't make that decision today. But
No.
that's where I stand.
There's two things I want to address. The first one is, if you have a 200 horsepower tractor, nice analogy, by the way, for relatability. That's good psychology there. You either drop a couple of bottoms off the plow so you can pull it, or you should have done your homework and matched your horsepower to your implement. That's how you take care of that situation. The second one is, you keep mentioning $250,000 in the bank account, and Margot spoke to that, so I don't want to hear any more about the $250,000 in the bank account. The third one that I just can't quite get my point across is, we've increased it from 20 hours to 30 hours. We've added health care at the request of Director Wood. We have moved the office from Baker City to LeGrand to eliminate a 2-hour commute. And the COVID is not an excuse for productivity. People are working from home more over the internet than they are when they go to their office space. So that's not a fair representation.
And our business at KIE Supply has never seen that in our branch store. I have never seen anything like that in 20 years of working there. It has been unbelievable. We've never seen the numbers like this before as far as increase of business.
And other businesses are still operating and functioning. The accounting service that did the audit, the accounting service that the district uses is still functioning. And to the best of my knowledge, there is still food on the shelves in every grocery store in America that requests it because farmers did their job, COVID or no COVID. So I do not want to hear the COVID excuse. I want to know why we have all this old business that's not being taken care of and a proposal to increase to a full-time position when the only thing that I can see that's changed in the last year as far as the dynamic of the position of executive director is.
Sorry, did Tim cut out?
I think
Just
you
now?
might have muted yourself.
Oh, I think he dropped off.
So, Alex, following Tim's interpretation of my analogy, I guess we figure out maybe one of the ways we figure this out is how to drop some bottoms off the plow. So, what are the things you should not do anymore? I guess.
I mean, I've been working on that. For example, almost all the management of the local television channel I do on my own, not while working for the district. There is a very minimal amount of work on the channel that actually happens on the clock so that I can focus on the things that are part of the business of translating, as opposed to
working off the clock.
well, I mean, it's treating it like a hobby, I guess. You know, if somebody works for YouTube and has a YouTube channel.
No, not if it's a benefit of Blue Mountain Translator District. That is against the law, and you're signing your timesheet that timesheet is accurate. That is a huge, big problem.
So I guess maybe to
Hey,
answer.
sorry, I ran out of battery. I'm back.
So
maybe then that answers some of the some of the question. Then you're already doing quite a bit on your own time to the benefit of the district. Needs to be paid.
So right now,
Well,
I believe that we should pick a few things in old business for each meeting in each month. Let's get it taken care of. And if we can't get it done at that meeting, then let's schedule it for the next meeting. Let's start whittling these down before we add new business. Like Tim says, our main goal is to maintain the equipment with the money we have. Let's take care of some of these policies and some of these past businesses that haven't been taken care of. And then we can move on to a bigger vision at that point. So let's take care of the old business. Let's get that off the books.
So is it fair to say, accurate, we're coming up on the end of the hour here. Do we feel like this list that we have here is relatively complete to work from over the next couple of meetings, as far as if each of us pick one or two of these things we want to add to the agenda for the upcoming meetings? Is this, do we feel like this is fairly, besides the month-to-month stuff we have to do, is this fairly comprehensive for what to work from in terms of working some of that stuff off? Scott?
I agree with you on that.
There's a couple. Can you hear me? It's Tim again. I lost
Yep.
connection. Yep. There's a couple of things that forgot to get put on the list there, which was to poll the paying members of the district and to calculate from that data the number of people that utilize the local channel as a percentage.
As a percentage of what,
So-
Tim?
So we don't have any idea to put into numbers how many people are viewing the local channel of the paying members of the district. And we don't know what their opinion is of the local channel. And without that data and feedback, we don't have the information to act accordingly at the board level to know whether or not they find it to be beneficial and they're appreciative of what's going on so far with the investment made and the grant money that was received to help reimburse for the cost of the local channel.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
we need to collect the data in a poll to calculate the percentage of district members that are watching the local streaming channel or the over-the-air broadcast, and take that total number of paying members versus those that are actually viewing the content in those two locations. So we have something to base a decision upon. And along that same line, when it comes time for someone, whoever chooses to take on the task and put their boots on and go to work, about the strategic plan that was presented to the board of directors back in January, I believe it was, or February of last year, and how the channel was to be used. So those things kind of need to be defined in the goals, whoever takes on that task, because it was pitched to the board of directors to be an educational tool to help the IMESD, speaking from memory here, it's in the meeting minutes somewhere.
Mhm.
The IMESD was supposed to be partnering to put educational content to help with the COVID-19, and that never happened. My understanding is the LeGrand School District launched their own television station to address that. So we're not using it as it was pitched in the strategic plan. But more importantly, we don't know if the people are watching it, if they like it, if it's worth it, and what to do with it. Unless we have a poll.
That's a good point. We need to know that.
Okay, the last tidbit I've got is for the standard operating procedure, the task list of what the board feels is important. The bank statements need to be presented with the bills every month in the board packets. And the meetings could be simplified to address the topic, the motion, and the vote, rather than having a narrative like a journal entry for meeting minutes. It makes it really hard to go back through and find what you're looking for when they're so lengthy. If that could be streamlined, whoever takes on the task of addressing the standard operating procedures for the office assignment, that'd be great. I have nothing further. Anyone else?
I have nothing.
Nope.
Or triaging some of these things. I see purchase of a new transmitter. Should that be kind of fast tracked? Like you were thinking that maybe we had chance of things failing. So I wondered whether that should be kind of bumped to the beginning of wherever we're making actual decisions.
Yeah, Director Smoots, that'll fall at the feet of the budget committee with the guidance of the budget committee leader,
Okay.
and looking at the track record of the district and how well it's performed in the recent years, which has been already discussed. The motivation was to gain revenue to replace transmitters. That was the motivation for me personally. Because without the equipment, none of this other stuff exists. Does that help offer some perspective, Director Smoots?
I was just thinking about relative urgency on something like that. If you, yeah, but it sounds like that's already kind of set to be handled by. Was the budget committee
Yeah,
smaller than whoever's here?
So the budget committee consists of all 5 members of the board plus 5 at-large community members who are registered to vote
Okay.
in the boundaries of the district. Right now, our current transmitter replacement plan is that we replace one every year, but nobody has ever brought up that they want to replace more than one a year during the budget writing cycle. So
Okay.
that's why we're doing this during this goal session, is so that when I write the next budget, if there's a desire to purchase more than one new transmitter per year, then we can make sure there's money available for that. We use our equity to get that done. It's just nobody has ever said during the budget writing cycle they want more than one new transmitter purchased per year.
Okay.
The exposed power line thing, that needs to be taken care of pretty quick too. I would think.
Probably this summer, don't you think, Alex, where we can get across the fields and look at it?
I imagine so, yeah.
Okay.
It's not too far up Mount Fanny. If you go to the edge of Cove, like it's on kind of the hillside at the very eastern edge of town. So it's not as covered in snow throughout the year as the rest of Mount Fanny is. I'd probably just have
Okay.
to talk to the property owner about when things usually clear up. So, if it were something at the top of the mountain, we'd have to wait until the end of July to even go up there. But I imagine the hillsides of Mount Fanny, like right where Cove is, are going to be a little
Be able to look at this
melted
spring,
off.
then.
Yeah.
Is that a job for Rob, or do we contract that out with someone else? Alex?
The translator district spent a large amount of money to repair that power line a number of years ago, and there will be a record of it in the office, along with the GPS coordinates of the power line as it goes up the mountain, FYI. There's no need to gallivant around the hillside and try and figure out where it is, because the company that did the contract work already located it and sent a map.
That's
That
correct.
exists.
I think nobody's challenging that.
Wouldn't think they would.
Yeah, no, we're
So-
talking about the specific places where it's been exposed that we need to look at.
So
I don't know where exactly the power line has become exposed. We already know where the map is. It's just a matter of somebody showing us where on that map it's been exposed.
Well, I thought you went out there and met with the landowner and tried to find the spot.
Well, everything
that
was
what you
covered in
said in that-
snow, so we couldn't actually get that done, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to wait until the snow is all melted for me to go back up there and take a look and figure out, what's there that's been exposed, send that to a contractor who knows how to fix things, and go from there.
That's not a
Okay,
job
so-
for Rob.
No, that's
Okay.
not a job for Rob. That's a job for a power line company.
Gotcha.
That's not a radio and broadcast job. That's a power company job. So I think everybody should pick and choose from the list. I don't know how we want to proceed from here. We kind of talked around a lot of different subjects there. I think everybody should say what they think they want to take on as a task and how we should move this goal section forward. Start with one at a time and start with VP Sheehan.
Well, Mr. President, if I may, since we're at the hour now, I think it'd probably be a better idea for us to each email this in, say which goals you want to do, and then I'll assemble the list after that. Or even, look at a
Sounds
Google
good.
Doc to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking it might have been when your phone had died, Tim. I think we thought maybe it would be good to just through email pick one or two things that we make sure we work through this over the next couple of meetings, and if we each pick one or two things for the next handful of meetings, we can start to work some stuff down. So if that sounds good, that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I missed that part when I was going for the phone charger and whatnot. Yep, that works. So we do it by email, right?
Sounds good to me.
So just, I
Okay.
think what I had asked Tim, and I think maybe was right when your phone dropped off, if you think the list we're working from here is fairly comprehensive and covers both old business and new business. You added a couple of things there, the poll, but it seems like if we can more or less agree this is what we're working from, then we can actually, Alex, maybe we could redo this with numbers instead of bullets, and then we can refer specifically to this list and start getting things crossed off.
Yeah, that works.
Just confirming, you're looking at the one that came out this morning, not the one that came out on the 25th? Or the
2021 goal session.
Yeah, so yeah, something came out like 9:34 this morning, meeting materials, and it's shorter than a revised one that came out earlier. It seemed like I was seeing a 2-page version when people were showing it on the screen share.
Yeah, it's the one that's showing right now is what I'm working from.
Okay. And that one doesn't have a tail beyond the page that's displayed, right?
There's a half a page after that.
Okay, so that's the one that was sent out not this morning. But anyway, okay, anyway, just so long as we're all on the same page, making sure I'm looking at the right list.
Director Smoot, I'm trying to find a date or something on the goal section. I don't see it.
I'm looking at the
Oh,
packet.
wait a
It's
second.
January
Okay.
27th.
Oh, okay. Now that's my time frame. My email program bumped it up because there'd been some conversation on it. Okay, so the V2 one that's the good one. Gotcha.
Yep. And in that, I think that was the email that came out at 9:30 this morning. Was Rob
just commenting on that
reminding us about the low antenna at Mount Harris? I don't know if that's included on here in one of these bullets, but it needs to be, I guess.
Anyway, it's the revised meeting materials. I got it. So.
Yep.
Okay, are we good?
Yep. Think so.
Okay, I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor? Roll call?
President Wallander,
Yes.
Vice President Sheehan,
Yes.
Director Butner,
Yes.
Director Smoots.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone take care.
Yep. You too.